Well, hello, my name is Christopher Scott, and I serve as a small groups pastor of a local church. And I'm doing some videos to help small group facilitators increase the amount of people that attend their group, right? Because at our church, sometimes we have trouble where people that express interest in a small group, they sign up, they say they're going to be there, but then they never actually show up. Or maybe they show up once but don't continue to attend the group. So these are some videos I'm creating to help small group facilitators increase the amount of people in their small group from the amount of people that sign up, okay? And this video is about how, as a small group facilitator, when you have people that express interest in your group, you need to call them, email them, text them, and do it regularly to get them to come to your small group, okay? So if you think about it, this makes sense, right? Because someone might be, they might be 40 years old, they've lived their life, they've had a bunch of different things going on, they've never been part of a small group before. All of a sudden they say, hey, I think I'm going to try out a small group on Wednesdays at 6:30. So they've got 40 years of living life where they didn't go to a small group on Wednesdays at 6:30. They're having to create a whole new habit, right? And your job as a facilitator is to inform them about the group, remind them about the meeting, explain how you hope to see them there, and remind them over and over until it starts to become a habit and until they kind of make that small group part of their normal life, right? They've had 40 years without it. It's going to take a few weeks, months, or even a year until that group starts to become part of their life, right? So, and this means that first you need to call the person, right? You get to sign up for your group, call them up on the phone. Try to connect with them and talk to them on the phone and get to know them. Then you want to provide an email to them about your meeting and group and how to get there and things like that. And you want to send them a text message with that information. So what I like to do is try to call them as soon as I get their information, or call them 2 weeks before the group begins. And then 1 week before the group begins, I send them an email and a text message. It's the same text material. It's the same message, just via email and via text, because not everybody does emails very well. Not everybody does text messages very well, okay? So you want to call about 2 weeks in advance, send an email and a text about a week in advance, and then the day of, send them another email and text message as a reminder. And again, you're not being pushy, you're not trying to sell things, you're just giving them gentle reminders. Hey, looking forward to seeing you tonight, right? Things like that. And if you think about it, there's a lot of reminders in the Bible, right? Just a quick survey of the Bible gave me some things that I came up with. In Joshua 22, chapter 22, verse 10 says, while they were still in Canaan, they came to a place called Gilead near the Jordan River. The men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh stopped to build a large and imposing altar. So this is in Joshua 22 after the promised land has been mostly conquered. 9.5 tribes take their land on one side of the Jordan River, and then 2.5 tribes take their land on the other side of the Jordan River, right? And those 2.5 tribes decide to build an altar as a reminder to their descendants about what has gone on and how they were connected with all 12 tribes of Israel to take that land, if that makes sense. So they're building this reminder. And then the 9.5 tribes figure out they just built an altar. Are they worshiping other gods? So then in Joshua chapter 22, verses 24 through 27 says this. This is the 2.5 tribes on the east side of the Jordan River are explaining why they built this altar, what the purpose was. They say, the truth is, we have built this altar because we fear that in the future your descendants will say to ours, what right do you have to worship the Lord, the God of Israel? The Lord has placed the Jordan River as a barrier between your people and the people of Reuben and Gad. You have no claim to the Lord, so your descendants may prevent our descendants from worshiping the Lord. So we decided to build the altar, not for burnt offerings or sacrifices, but as a memorial or a reminder. It will remind our descendants and your descendants that we too have the right to worship the Lord at his sanctuary with burnt offerings, sacrifices, and peace offerings. Then your descendants will not be able to say to ours, you have no claim. So they build this big old monument just as a reminder to the descendants of both groups of people on one side of the Jordan River and the other. So they build this big old thing as a reminder about what God has done and about the connection that they have. Proverbs 7:3 says, talking about the laws of the Lord and things like that. Tie them on your fingers. Tie those instructions on your fingers as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart, okay? John 14:26 talks about how Jesus is telling his disciples, I'm going to go away, but I'm going to send you an advocate, a counselor, a helper. That's the Holy Spirit. I'm going to send you this person that's going to help you. Jesus says in John 14:26, but when the Father sends the advocate as my representative, that is the Holy Spirit, he will teach you everything and he will remind you of everything I have told you. So that's one of the ministries of the Holy Spirit in our lives, is to remind us of what we already know about Jesus, okay? You start to see a theme throughout the Bible. 1 Corinthians 15:1, Paul writes, let me now remind you, dear brothers and sisters, of the good news I preached to you before. You welcome it and you still stand firm in it. So Paul's reminding them about the things he had already taught them. 2 John verse 5, John says, I'm writing to remind you, dear friends, that we should love one another. Okay? So I'm writing to remind you, dear friends, something you already know, but I'm still going to remind you about it. Jude 5, so I want to remind you, though you already know these things, Jude says. So we're seeing this theme of reminding a lot in the Bible. So when it comes to us, calling someone on the phone, sending an email, sending a text message as a gentle and friendly, kind reminder about our groups, we should not feel embarrassed. We should not, I don't want to bother him. No, this is something God does to us throughout the Bible and that we see people in the Bible regularly doing. And when someone decides they want to join a small group and learn more about God and grow in their relationship with him, we should not be apologetic to gently and kindly and regularly remind them. Call them a couple weeks in advance, email and text them 1 week before the group, and then do it again the day of, and then do it each week, maybe for 2 months, just to get it going. That's totally okay, right? So this is a video trying to help you increase the amount of people that join your small group by calling, emailing, and texting people reminders. I know it's kind of simple, but it's something that we need to be disciplined to do, and that if you want to have a strong, solid, small group of people that you get to disciple and work with each week, it's something you need to do as well. So hope you found this video helpful. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe to my channel up there, and I got a bunch of other tips to help you increase the number of people that are in your small group. From Who Signed Up, I got those tips in a playlist right there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you again in another video.